Hello and welcome to my presentation on creating resilience in the workplace. My name is Kirsten Ingalls and I'm a registered provisional psychologist. I work at the Ottendai Psychological Group in Pinoka, Alberta. Following is in my contact information in case you would like to get a hold of me after the presentation. Before we start on our presentation, I would like to have a formal land acknowledgement here. Responding to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action is with respect and in the spirit of reconciliation and truth. Ottendai Psychological Group honor and acknowledge that here in Alberta, Treaties 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, as well as many unsigned treaties, are the traditional and ancestral territory of many diverse Indigenous peoples. Namely, they are the Kainai, Piikani, Siksika, Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, Stoney Nakoda, Tsuut'ina Nation, Inuit, and the Métis Nation. We acknowledge and give thanks to the many First Nations, Métis Nations, and Inuit peoples who have lived on and cared for these lands for generations, and the many others whose histories, languages, and cultures continue to influence our vibrant community. We are dedicated to ensuring the spirit of all treaties are honored and respected. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on or are visiting. Here is our table of contents of what we're going to be talking about today. We'll go over the definition of resilience, the benefits, we'll go through the brief resiliency scale. There's a video I'll be sharing with you, a lot of strategies, and then at the end we'll create a resilience plan. This presentation is designed to be interactive and engaging. I may ask you to press pause and visit a website or a link if you'd like. However, you're not required to do so if you do not want to. So you do you. Secondly, another thing I wanted to come to let you guys know is resiliency. This is a huge topic. It's based on many, many different facets. And so with that being said, I'll be sharing light on a variety of different areas of resiliency, and I will be sharing a lot of strategies as well. Some of these strategies may not work for you, or they may. So these tools and strategies shared in this presentations are mere suggestions. So as you practice, try the strategies out if you would like. Be patient with yourself and only engage in these activities if at your own discretion and if you feel like. So a wonderful quote on resiliency by Kelly McGonigal, I thought I would share with you at the very beginning to kind of create the space of what we'll be discussing further. Resilience is not about being untouched by adversity or unruffled by difficulties. It is about allowing stress to awaken in you these core human strengths and courage, connection, and growth. Whether you are looking at resilience in overworked executives or war-torn communities, people in military deployment, immigrants or refugees, people living in poverty, battling cancer, or raising a child with autism, the same themes emerge. People who are resilient allow themselves to be changed by the experience of adversity. They maintain a basic sense of trust in themselves and a connection to something bigger than themselves. They also find ways to make meaning out of suffering. To be resilient is not to avoid difficulty, but to play an active role in how difficulty transforms you. Action, being there, willing to be flexible and moving through these challenges is the core of resiliency. So right now, times are tough. That's where resiliency is really important, especially now when we focus onto the workplace and resilience. Many things are causing us stress. COVID is a huge number one here. With that, there's changes in the workplace, organizational technological changes, moving in and out of the workplace, working from home, learning how to do Zoom or anything online, really. Working in isolation is definitely something that has increased throughout the pandemic here. There's also the lack of control over work content and workload, threat of job loss, pressures of deadlines, receiving criticism for your work-life balance. All of these cause some sort of stress. So resiliency is that buffer to that stress. So what is resiliency? We've already talked a little bit about a definition, but we'll talk about two more theoretical definitions. The capacity to recover quickly. Toughness, that's from the Oxford University Press. And the second one I'm sharing is from the American Psychological Association, and that is resiliency is the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. That's where we're in. we're learning how to be resilient right now, having that grit. So with regards to resiliency, there is a wonderful, wonderful organization called the Alberta Family Wellness Organization, and they've created an amazing video that illustrates our brain's journey to resilience. Um, for copyright reasons, I'm not able to share it with you in this presentation, but I highly encourage you to press pause now and visit the link provided here by typing it into your browser. So, resiliency can be developed, as if you did stop and press pause and watch the video, what you notice is resiliency can be developed by learning through experiences. Some people are born more with resiliency than others, and resiliency, like the video suggests, can be built over time. So what does it look like to recover quickly or adapt well in the face of adversity, like the definitions above suggested? What we do is we train our brains to place more emphasis on positive experiences rather than the negative ones. We stop those negative experiences from happening and we shift that fulcrum over. In this presentation, I will be sharing many strategies to support you in training your brain to be more resilient by harnessing onto those positive emotions and experiences and learning from challenging experiences. Like, and I said, and that video said, shifting that fulcrum to more of that space of more positive outcomes, which creates more health and well-being. So there are many benefits of being resilient, and in specific for the workplace, the benefits are as followed according to Burton. Better handling of challenges, being able to be prevent those negative emotions and thoughts from clouding judgment. When we're resilient, that's what usually comes up for us, is we can deal with these workplace issues more calmly and logically. Improve communication. With being able to be resilient, we can actively, speak up and contribute and can express ourselves in more and clearly and constructively, especially if we have those self-regulation tools under our belt that we'll be talking about later. Reduce burnout and presenteeism. When we are able to better cope with stress and burnout, we're able to be more actively engaged in our work. Creating a competitive business. Employers and workplaces that have resiliency trainings can have more of a step up when it comes to being able to overcome challenges, especially in the face of COVID. Better relationship among colleagues, open to upskilling and developing. People that are resilient are willing to grow and learn new things. Good organization and time management. When we're able to better cope with this adversity, especially in COVID, we're able to be more organized as well. And willingness to give and receive support is a really big one. Being able to empathize with others and be able to be open to hear other people's perspectives as well is a huge thing in order to connect and create that connection with yourself, but also in the workplace. So moving forward, I thought it would be a cool idea to give you an opportunity to assess how resilient you are. There is a scale called the Brief Resiliency Scale, the BRS for short. There's links here and here that you can go to. It is a self-rated measure and it's 6 questions, and it should not take you too long to do if you decide to do so. The second link, the side toolkit link, you simply scroll down and press the button labeled "click here to run a demo" for the survey. Both links bring you to the BRS, but the only difference is the second link is an automated where it calculates your score by automatically, but the first one is manual. I thought I'd put it both there in case your Internet Explorer or your internet browser doesn't work for the second one. So just a disclaimer though, if you choose to visit one of the links, it is important to note that the BRS is reliable for assessing resilience as the ability to bounce back or recover from stress and people coping with health-related stressors. So not necessarily the workplace. It's not this BRS is not the gold standard measurement for resiliency, as there are many different tools out there, and more research does need to be completed with different populations, i.e. workplace employees. So this is just kind of a general understanding if you have low or high resiliency or normal resiliency. So now that you have, if you have chosen to measure your general sense of how resilient you are, I'm now going to play this video that explains a little bit more of what resiliency is. And remember, how I said earlier in this presentation, how resilience can be developed. This video gives a great introduction on how we can build our resiliency skills.
Resilience is just as much about thriving as it is about overcoming challenges. When we're more resilient, we're able to see the opportunities ahead of us. Okay, it isn't about getting it right all the time. No one's perfect, but resilience means we're able to keep things in perspective, overcome life setbacks, and focus on what really matters. Life is amazing and can also be really tough. When it is, it's important to notice what we can learn from the situation so we bounce forward. Sometimes we think of resilience as just keeping going, not giving up and bouncing back to where we started. This isn't always the case. Being resilient means having skills and strategies that we trust and are confident will work for us. Let's call them our tools for life. Resilience is also about the support around us, knowing that I am not on my own and that asking or needing help is not a weakness, whoever we are. If we can learn resilience and use the skills day to day, we will deal with the small stuff so it doesn't build up. We will know how to cope better with the bigger things that can happen, and we'll notice and value the good stuff. At Bounce Forward, we know that every day can bring different things into our life, some good, some not so much. We can help you to bounce forward with real hope and optimism. Learn to think flexibly and realistically, develop self compassion and empathy for others, understand and deal with emotions, and most importantly, build and strengthen your human connections so you enjoy a better quality of life. Contact us at bounceforward.com or call us on 0330 133 0776 to find out how we can help in a way that works for you.
Okay, I got permission to share that video from Bounce Forward. If you do want to contact them, they do have a website that you can
Resilient.
see. Oh, sorry about that. So the components for building resilience, as Bounce Forward just suggested: flexible and realistic thinking, human connection, hope and optimism, self-regulation, self-compassion, and gratitude. I'll be talking about all of those components, plus the pillars of health next, and sharing strategies in the following slides. So the pillars of health of resilience: sleep and exercise and diet are the pillars of health and the foundation to resilience. Ideally, focusing on improving each of these pillars will support you in building your resilience and give you a strong foundation to efficiently and effectively train your brain and build the skill set to be more resilient. So with regards to sleep hygiene, according to Wickham and colleagues, the strongest predictor of mental health and well-being is sleep quality, not sleep quantity, which is really interesting to me. So making sure that you have that quality sleep, it's not necessarily how much sleep you get. Although if you do have less sleep than 8 hours or more sleep than 12 hours, it has been associated to more depressive symptoms. So but making sure that you have that quality sleep. Exercises and diet are the other two really great pillars for resilience. And according to the American Psychological Association, exercise boosts brain health. Having regular exercise routine can decrease the effects of stress on the body, improves mental health and mood, and even enhances our memory and our thinking abilities. So being able to exercise on a daily basis, maybe not that, so the Department of Health doesn't necessarily say daily basis. It would be great 30 minutes a day. However, they recommend about 150 minutes or 2.5 hours of moderate aerobic activity throughout the week. So, or 75 minutes of really vigorous activity. And then in your diet, making sure to include some raw fruits and vegetables. So moving forward, human connection, one of the biggest pillars or components of resilience. By connecting to others, having a willingness to reach out and to have empathy and care for others can increase personal happiness and our ability to bounce back from adversity. So there are many health benefits According to the Canadian Mental Health Association, you can lower your anxiety and depression, help us regulate our emotions, lead to higher self-esteem and empathy, and actually improve our immune system. So by neglecting or need to connect, we put our health at risk. So they suggest to join a new club or try a group activity or reach out to an old friend you've lost touch with. Volunteer for a cause you care about, eat lunch in a communal space. That might be a little difficult right now in COVID, so maybe adapting that one. Introduce yourself to your neighbors, ask someone for help when you need it. That's a big one. And do a random act of kindness. These are things that can really support your resiliency. Um, so moving forward, the self-regulation. Self-regulation is an important competency for building resilience. Understanding the impact and the range of our emotions and how we feel, our impulse controls, and engaging in strategies to help us feel calm and centered, especially in the face of adversity and stress, really can help us increase our resiliency, and especially at work. So this is, I'm going to show a video by Andrew Huberman. He's a neuroscientist from Stanford University. And so what he suggests is breathing is one of the key indicators for emotional and psychological regulations, and our body regulating as well. So here he will explain a breathing technique. So I will press play, and just heads up, there is like a little pitchy electric guitar sound at the very beginning, just so if you have your speakers up, you might want to turn them down a little bit.
Billions of people suffer from stress, and there are tools to combat stress that involve things like meditation, breath work, good nutrition, good social connections, and avoiding all bad things in life. And while those are powerful, the problem is they require that people step away from the stress-inducing activity. By contrast, my lab and other laboratories have been very interested in developing tools that allow us to push back on stress, in other words, feel more calm in real time, meaning without having to disengage from the stress-inducing activity. The best way that I am aware to do that is called the physiological sigh. A physiological sigh is a pattern of breathing that involves 2 inhales followed by an extended exhale. Physiological sighs were discovered in the 1930s as a pattern of breathing that people go into spontaneously when they're in claustrophobic environments or in deep sleep when there's a buildup of a gas called carbon dioxide in the bloodstream. Carbon dioxide triggers the impulse to breathe. There are neurons in the brain that know when carbon dioxide levels have gotten too high. And when the levels get too high, they trigger inhale and exhale, or double inhale and exhale. Now, you can do physiological sighs voluntarily anytime you're feeling too stressed and you want to feel more calm. You do it like this. So it's a double inhale, and typically the first inhale is longer than the second, but the second one is still important to do. And then a very long extended exhale. Typically both inhales are through the nose and the exhale is through the mouth. That's the most effective way to do the physiological sigh. However, you can't breathe through your nose or your mouth for whatever reason, do it all through your mouth or all through your nose. The second inhale is really important because your lungs are not just 2 big bags of air, they're 2 big bags of air with lots of little sacs, millions of sacs. And if you were to lay out those sacs, their volume is as big as a tennis court. And that allows both the intake of more oxygen, but also the offload of carbon dioxide. So when you do the double inhale, it reinflates any of these little sacs that have collapsed. And in doing so, it allows you to offload more carbon dioxide. So if you're feeling stressed in any circumstance, inhale twice through the nose and then exhale long through the mouth. If you want, you can repeat it a second or even a third time, but typically just 1 or 2, maybe 3 physiological sighs are sufficient to bring your level of stress and alertness down very fast and allow you to feel more calm.
Okay, so I hope that strategy supports you next time you're feeling stressed. I know when I use it, it is a very, very helpful strategy for me. So another component for resiliency is flexible and realistic thinking, being open and curious to different perspectives, looking for evidence to problem solve effectively. That's flexible thinking. With that being said, it is important to be aware of our negativity biases as humans. According to the neuropsychologist Rick Hansen, we naturally have a brain that's designed to do 5 things. We scan for bad news, we overfocus on it, overreact to it, over remember it, fast track it into memory, and become gradually sensitized to it over time. So, what this looks like, for example, if you had a great day at work and then a colleague might have said some offhand comment to you, and then you stew over it throughout the day. And then when you go back home, somebody asks you, "Hey, how was your day at work?" You say, "Oh, it was terrible." And in retrospect, you actually just had like one instance of something negative and a whole day of positive things, but our brains like to focus on that one thing. So notice when you are in that space of negativity, it happens so often to us. So to be able to counteract our negativity bias, a strategy that can be helpful is creating an awareness of pleasant and unpleasant events calendar throughout our day. Um, you can what that is really identifying what your experience is. Was it pleasant? Was it unpleasant? Were you aware of the feeling during the experience? Describe how your body felt to yourself as you write it down if you feel like it. What were your feelings, moods, and thoughts? And what are your thoughts as you write? So by being able to create more of an awareness of our pleasant and unpleasant events, it can be helpful for observing our thoughts in like the present and not judging them and not judging them. So yeah, rather than having critical thoughts, we're being able to have an open and more flexible and realistic thoughts. So give it a try. See if maybe you might notice that there might be more flexibility in your thinking if the more awareness you are in the present moment of how you're responding and paying attention to things around you. Self-compassionate gratitude is one of the big components for creating resiliency for yourself and then also in the workplace as well. Did you know that pro-social circuits in our brain that are designed to bring us closer to ourselves and others, um, they're there and they create connection, helping, sharing, caring, comforting. They increase our mood, decrease our stress, and it actually counteracts the defensive circuits in our brains. So the more pro-social circuits that we can pay attention to and focus on, it creates less of that freeze and move away from a situation. So you move forward it with more problem solving and understanding. And so in order to be able to do that, two of really important benefits that you or not benefits, sorry, strategies that can work and utilize in your life is self-compassion and gratitude. So gratitude, an effective gratitude practice, Huberman Lab from Andrew Huberman, he created an episode on the Huberman Lab podcast about gratitude practice and effectivity of it. It's quite interesting. He explains what an effective gratitude practice looks like, and he even suggests that gratitude is as beneficial for our mental health and stress levels as physical activity. So just briefly, you'll have to check out the podcast if you're interested. He goes over it in depth for an effective gratitude practice. But what it is you think of a meaningful story that inspires you, somebody that has done something that is that done something for you or you have done something for somebody to be grateful for, and then as you do that you activate your gratitude and pro-social circuits. So thinking about that, what happened, that experience over and over again, think about that story and how it impacted you emotionally. And by doing that practice, thinking about a story that inspires you, harnessing onto your pro-social circuits in your brain by really thinking about, hey, this is what I'm doing right now, and embodying those feelings of that gratitude and repeating it and being consistent, you may notice that your thought process will shift to more of that positivity kind of experiences that we were talking about earlier. Another great strategy is a self-compassion break. If you go to selfcompassion.org, they have awesome strategies on there. So this one is notice your moment of suffering, something that's challenging, acknowledging it to yourself. soothing touch, place a soothing touch either on your heart or your cheeks or whatnot, and then say something kind to yourself, like, hey, may I be kind to myself in this moment, or may I accept myself for who I am. So there's a lot of power in these practices. And so when done consistently, they are very, very beneficial. They can be very beneficial for moving closer and to ourselves and to others, and really diving into problem solving and creating more ease in our world. So next one, hope and optimism. Resiliency entails thinking optimistically, being focused, upbeat, and it entails the belief that a realistic goal can be met during a challenge. So by adopting a growth mindset, talked about it a little bit earlier in the benefits of creating a work resiliency in the workplace, is the growth mindset. It can support us feeling more hopeful and optimistic. A growth mindset is defined as approaching a struggle as an opportunity for personal growth and learning. So, for example, we're in the workplace, and somebody has criticized our work, or even at home. It's really difficult when that happens, and sometimes we become defensive when something like somebody criticizes something that we've done, and sometimes we take it personally. It's more of an attack on our character rather than the work itself. So, adopting growth mindset to criticism would be important. So, being able to shift to, hey, this is an opportunity for growth here. I can learn something here. It's a valuable feedback tool when we can kind of shift our mindset. So now I invite you to try out an activity that can support you in growing your mindset to criticism. First, we want to think of a situation in your recent past when you were oversensitive to criticism. You can write this down if you'd like. So first, you describe the situation. Who was involved? How were you criticized? What were the consequences of being oversensitive in that situation? Then consider a growth mindset. How to counteract that? Consider the idea that this criticism was valuable, offering you the opportunity to improve yourself. How can you reframe the experience of criticism to become more of an opportunity for growth and learning? And then from there, creating some affirming statements. Say three things that you can say to yourself next time you do have criticism brought towards your way. Something like, this feedback is a blessing in disguise, not a personal attack, or without the feedback, I would remain stagnant. So looking at criticism as a positive thing rather than something to be defensive about is definitely something that can help that resiliency in the workplace. Next thing, and lastly, we're going to create a resilience plan together if you feel like it. So now that we went over the components of resilience, we will now go over steps to creating a resilience plan. You may find that the competencies that we just discussed, like hope and optimism, self-compassion and gratitude, flexible and realistic thinking, self-regulation, that human connection piece, and also the pillars of health, all of those components may help you build this resiliency plan. So to be able to build it, we first want to identify a situation right now that is difficult for us. And then from there, we want to identify who are the supportive people in our life that can help us through that, through this difficult situation. A friend, coworker, a loved one, maybe a parent or a grandparent. And then after that, we want to create strategies. What strategies do you think that will help me cope with any of these negative thoughts and feelings that are showing up for me in this difficulty? So for instance, perhaps the breathing technique that we learned earlier, or creating more of an event calendar for pleasant and unpleasant thoughts, practicing a gratitude practice or self-compassion, maybe going for a walk, eating something that's comforting to you, music, or maybe a massage or something. And then the third thing that we can do in creating a resiliency plan is sagacity. And so what that is that we want to, sagacity is the wisdom and insight that you hold about yourself and about others. So that wisdom can come from quotes from songs or video or books or poetry, spiritual writings. So for example, a sagacity could be, this too shall pass. So finding something that is a important message for you to think about yourself in this time of your challenge. And then lastly, solution seeking behaviors. What solution seeking behaviors can you do to help you deal with the problem? Can you problem solve or seek out new information, plan ahead or negotiate or speak up and have your voice and your opinion heard? Or ask for help. That's a good one too. So if you would like, give a plan, try and see how it works for you. And I thought I would put in an example of what that plan would look like, just so it might help you a little bit to see how it's formed. So you, this person, they stuffed up a job interview and did not get the job. Okay, causing a challenge. They looked at the supports, what kept them upright, called their mother, and so forth. Strategies. They went for a walk, did the calming breathing exercise, played with their dog. Sagacity. What did they say to themselves for comfort? Remember that growth comes with mistakes. This too shall pass. Then solution seeking behavior, what they did afterwards, after this to improve themselves. They asked for feedback from the job interviewers. They applied for 3 times new jobs, sought professional coaching for job interviews. So really creating that plan into place, utilizing all those components can be that we talked about earlier, can really help you increase your resiliency for yourself in your personal life and also in the workplace as well. So to finish our presentation off here, I thought I would leave you with some other resources. If you're curious about diving deeper into creating more resiliency in your life, there's a 7-day resiliency challenge from the Heart Math Institute that I found was very helpful for me. You just Google it up, and it might be on sale right now for the new year. And then there's the book Resilient by Dr. Rick Hansen. I've already talked about the Huberman Lab. Really great, wonderful episodes for helpful to learning about, not just creating more resiliency in your life. Positivepsychology.com is where I got a lot of these strategies from today. So if you want to learn more, going there would be very beneficial as well. And then the Alberta Family Wellness, they are the ones that created that really great video at the very beginning that I wasn't able to show you. There's an amazing amount of resources there, and they have a great class called The Brain Story if you ever want to learn about how your past experiences is creating and shaped you for who you are today. So those are the resources. That is the end of my presentation. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. I hope the strategies were helpful for you, and I hope you take care and you have a happy new year. See you later.